welcome to NHL Nightly on Hot Take Hockey with your host, Jeremiah Maxwell, a.k.a. the Sports Beard. Along with Pearlo Wisdom, the NHL handicapper extraordinaire. And Rico Inberry, goal-scoring prop dynamo. And featuring the degenerate gambler, Bostonian Mike.
There's a new intro. I don't know if you like it or not, but what's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us. Thanks to be back with you guys, very much so. After a 2-week break, before we talk about all this stuff, how was everybody's break? Pearlo's got some news. Rico got arrested in Mexico. Just kidding, Rico. I thought I was going to show the picture of you with the cops, but I think you just took that for fun, right?
Yeah, they were happy to take the picture. I was a few beers deep, and the guys are the National Guard with the big machine guns. I'm like, hey, you guys mind if I take a pic with you? They're like, yeah, no problem. Just hold up the guns and like fire.
You know, it's good if they habla inglés, right? Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't look like I was turning myself in for anything. I was kind of friendly asking them. So.
Yes, blended. I made the OV thumbnail. Yeah, John, I have been working with the Canva now, but I just need some of those photo stocks that he has so I can kind of make HTH theme thumbnails. But honestly, I want to differentiate our brand from his, even though we're broadcasting on his channel. This is our show. We produce it. We come up with the stuff. So we want to do what we want to put out a great product for you. But this is what we do. And normally we talk about, the games that are going on today. I picked the Sharks, by the way. They're up 1-0, 6 to go. I think that was a huge number today. I know Pearlo was on the Kings. That game doesn't start. We had nothing else today, but we had an incredible weekend of games we'll have to talk about, but we'd be burying the lead if we didn't talk about the Four Nations Faceoff a little bit. I know it's kind of been beat to death, and John did his streams, and I did a stream for him, I think, for one game. U.S. loses to Canada in the finals, 3-2. Mike, you were at the game. You were there in person. He said the Canadian contingency crowd was huge.
It was.
Yeah.
About 40% of that arena was definitely Canadian. It was great. It was a good atmosphere. Overtime dropped. I think the coolest thing happened. It didn't matter who you're rooting for. Johnny Hockey was that good for the first 5 minutes of play.
That's cool, man. Yeah,
I can't say enough great things about that tournament. I hope they do it again.
Mike and I got to talk about this a little bit on Friday. So Rico, Pearlo, I don't know if you were able to watch it. Pearlo, were you able to watch the game? Obviously, you're here in the States. You watched it on ESPN or ABC. It was on the local channel. If you get.
Oh yeah, I watched it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I had it. It was amazing. I got a couple more channels now, so I can watch more of the games.
Oh yeah, and ABC is, if you have in the US, if you just have a HD antenna, you probably can pick up somewhere to 20 to 30 local broadcast digital channels in your area for no cost. So just a lot of people don't realize that. And Rico, how about you? Did you watch it from the sunny Mexico or?
Yeah, we had it poolside at the resort. So everybody in the resort just kind of pulled up a chair in like the restaurant along the pool. It was like unbelievable. The game was tight, man. It was wicked. It would have been nice to have the whole contingent of players there, like the Quinn Hughes and a healthy Matthew Tkachuk and, Pietrangelo Theodore, all that stuff. But I mean, U.S. played well. And a lot of the people talking about Jake Slavin, like a lot of people don't watch Carolina games, man. That defenseman is such a good D. Jack Eichel. I mean, the games are so tight, and USA could have won that game. I'm glad it went to overtime, man. And honestly, I would have been good with whatever. It was just, it's a Four Nations, not the Olympics. So, I mean, to have it go into overtime is just, it gets the blood boiling, gets the nerves going. It's just a dramatic finish. It's unbelievable. And it took a small mistake from Matthews going in the corner and going to check out his little buddy Marner because he knows he has a good
Yeah.
set of hands, and he's leaving McDavid open in the slot, and boom, it's done.
So I don't blame Matthews on that too much. I actually think the defenseman played that wrong from the get, and should have been icing in the first place. So I mean, there's that. I mean, just my opinion, but I don't want to leave it on a sour note. Congrats. It was great for the NHL, and sounded like they made it a lot. Yeah, blended. I thought Fox was abysmal for the U.S. the whole thing. So appreciate everybody being in the chat with us. Yeah. What'd you say, Rico?
Maybe Adam Fox has been dealing with something too. I've heard that come out as well. So
yeah, it's called not being a good defenseman. It's called not being a good defenseman. That's what he's been dealing with.
Well, he's won a Norris before. So how does this guy win a Norris?
Yeah, I mean, what was that? How long ago was that?
It's called having Lindgren as your defense partner for.
No. I'll be the first to say Adam Fox needs help in New York.
Yeah.
But he was outmatched and outclassed.
Yeah, he looks like he's lost.
I would have had Jake Sanderson in over Adam Fox. Jake Sanderson had a goal in that game. By the way, little known fact about Jake Sanderson. You know where he was born? Whitefish, Montana. Somebody on this panel was born in Whitefish, Montana. You know who that was? Me.
You.
Yep. Jake Sanderson's the first NHLer from Montana, my home state, to make it to the NHL. Although my claim state of Alaska, we got a ton of NHLers. So a lot more. And, and actually the population, we have less people than Montana. So it's kind of funny how that goes. But yeah, just was a great tournament. I really enjoyed it. I don't buy the argument that Canada needed to win it. You're not growing the game in Canada. I'm sorry. Everybody already loves hockey there. You don't need to grow it there. The U.S., that would have helped the U.S. grow the game even more. I thought it was, and I get there's all these political undertones. That game meant it was a hockey game, okay? It's not going to have any effect on foreign policy. It's not going to change anything. Canada isn't going to win internationally because they won a hockey tournament. So, that's
Donald Trump isn't any more pissed off that the U.S. won. Lost.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, dude, you could talk politics, just to kind of jump right into it. The games this weekend, I thought were incredible. I thought all the games over when they came back, I did find it funny that a lot of the teams that had Four Nation players didn't really show up. I don't know. Did you guys get to watch any games this weekend? I watched every game Saturday. I watched all 14 games. It was Hockey Day in America on Sunday. I watched up into, I'm wearing my LA Fire hat. I watched up into the LA charity game. And then I watched that LA charity game because that was fun. That was kind of cool to watch that. And, I have the QR code that we could pop on too if people want to donate money, or if you're interested, let me know in the chat because I don't want to throw it on there. But, for all the people that lost their homes, but Theo Fleury, Jeremy Roenick, Mark Messier, PK Subban. There was just so many people. There's a huge list. Justin Bieber. There was like all these famous people that played. Snoop Dogg and Will Ferrell coached, and Al Michaels and Danny DeVito coached, and Vince Vaughn's team won, and their goalie didn't give up a goal the whole thing. It was really cool. So, but I Saturday's games, just a couple I wanted to talk about. Obviously, the Caps put a snowman up against the Penguins. Didn't think Crosby looked bad in the game. He scored a nice backhanded goal to make it 2-2 at one point. And then watch the Flyers-Oilers. The Flyers worked. They pumped the Oilers. You could tell the Oilers are not a deep team right now. Sabres put a snowman up on the Rangers. I thought it was funny because I think it's only like a couple times in NHL history, two teams that have allowed 8 goals, the Rangers and the Penguins, played each other in the next game. And I watched that game, of course, because, Wifey's a huge Rangers fan. I thought Pittsburgh outworked them, outplayed them, and they still lost 5-3. So that was an interesting one. But Rico, I thought one of the surprising ones was your Leafs kind of, you talked about Jacob Slavin, and then, Aho was on the team there. Obviously, Seth Jarvis from Carolina too, plus Rico Rantanen. So Carolina had 4 representatives. The Leafs had Matthews, Marner, and Nylander. What did you think of that game? Did you get to watch any of that game, or were you returning home?
I was kind of returning home. We were spending the weekend in Puerto Vallarta, so I didn't sit in front of too many TVs there. We just did a lot of walking around, some whale watching.
Oh, yeah. No worries.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to watch it as closely, but what I liked about it was it looked like a bunch of role players scored for the Leafs and John Tavares. And then the Carolina got back into the game, and then the Leafs were able to get a couple late empty netters to make it look like it wasn't close, but it was 4-3 at one point. So it was a good one. Bruins lose to the Ducks in overtime, and then the Ducks put up a heck of a fight. The Wild game was a crazy game. I wanted to just talk to you guys about that one. I didn't know if you saw that, the Wild Red Wings game. And those are just playoff implication games. So those were games. Obviously, as a Capitals fan, I'm sorry, Ken. I'll get to the chat in a minute. I'm just trying to get through our rundown here. There's all these teams tight on the thing. I'll say this as a Capitals fan, we beat Pittsburgh and we beat Edmonton on Saturday and Sunday on back-to-backs. I thought the game against the Oilers was one of the best games I've seen them play, and they had Charlie Lindgren in net. They dominated. They dominated that game straight up. Ovi could have had 4 goals and he got an empty netter. It was domination. So,
I had Washington before that game. I knew the Islanders were going to crap, or the Oilers were going to crap the bed that game. I knew it for sure.
Well, if you watched them against Philly,
I knew for Philly too. I knew for Philly as well. Yeah,
and to kind of scale it back to the Four Nations Faceoff, Sam Ersson played really good for Team Sweden, I thought. I don't know where you guys were if you watched those games. Yeah. Obviously Sweden beat the U.S. 2-1 in a game that really didn't mean much for the tournament as a total, but Sweden didn't lose a game in regulation. They lost all their games in overtime to Canada and to Finland, and then they beat the U.S. in reg. So they had a solid tournament. They just didn't medal. So Winnipeg just tied it with 25 seconds left. Boo. I know it's in Winnipeg, but I really was rooting because they're on a pretty big win streak here. I thought, it might end here. Maybe. And I gotta give the Sharks. Everybody said the Sharks didn't have any players that made it like Washington, but they had Granlund. They had just traded him. So I feel like he played most of the year there. So the real interesting game to me was that Detroit Wild game that was Saturday. That was an unbelievable game. The Wild tie it with like a minute left. Marcus Foligno, and then in overtime, like a really soft call goes in favor of the Red Wings. And I'm trying to think of the guy's name. Marco Rossi picks it off and scores shorthanded in overtime to win the game, get the extra point. So not a terrible result for the Red Wings because they're kind of in the mix there, but just one of those things. So yeah. Mike, any games from the weekend that you watched? I know you were focusing on college. You went to a couple college games. We'll talk about that at the College Hockey Show on Friday.
I went 7 for 7 this weekend. I actually was watching both on my NHL bet, 7 for 7. Very, very
okay.
Happy.
Sweet. Well, we'll talk about that when we get to the betting segment. Go ahead.
I was watching the Detroit game, the Lightning game yesterday, and I think I made everyone mad at the bar because I was wearing a Bruins hoodie cheering for the Ducks.
Dude, who cares? I mean, don't people know people bet on games now? Like that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, when you're in downtown Boston, 50 feet from the Garden, it's probably not the best spot to be doing that, but it is.
Who cares? Who cares? Yeah.
I love that Saturday. There was a lot of great games there. My big thing on that Saturday was how poopty the Rangers looked against the Sabres. I mean, that was absolutely brutal. They did the same thing against Pittsburgh and just got lucky that they had a rookie goaltender because Pittsburgh outplayed them the whole game.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think if you're a Rangers fan, you're really probably nervous that they're going to make the playoffs. Out of that weekend, we had the hit in the Islanders Ducks game where was it Islanders Ducks? I'm sorry, the Red Wings Ducks game on Sunday. Zegras hit. Boy, they didn't waste any time either. Zegras hits Marcus or Rasmussen, and Michael Rasmussen, and looks like he's getting 3 games. That was announced today. 3-game suspension for Trevor Zegras. So I'll just drop Pearlo out for a second. Tonight's games, obviously, we got did Winnipeg win the game here? We're in overtime. So Morrissey ties the game late. We're in overtime. I think Pearlo's having a problem with his camera.
Am I the only one that questions if it was worthy of 3 games that hit? I was watching it. I didn't think it was a 3-gamer, but
it was just late, man.
Yeah, I think it was a penalty, but
yeah, this
yeah, I'm not even sure Zegras saw him that well. I felt like he was trying to put the body on him, but he's not known for his physicality. I think sometimes these guys, when you're not physical, you maybe make a kind of an awkward hit. I've never seen him make a ton of dirty plays or anything. To my knowledge, he's never been suspended. I was trying to find something, didn't really see anything there. But the league thought 3 games was appropriate. So I heard Jeff Merrick saying he thought 2. It was in kind of line with a Cogliano hit or something a few years back. I don't know. I really didn't want to spend too much time on that. We did have a trade today to announce to the Anaheim Ducks acquired Ville Husso. Frank Saravelli said basically he didn't think that was, and I'll get that up for you guys. Future considerations. I got to give the Anaheim Ducks a really huge credit. They and we're stealing Chiclet's logo because they made a real sweet one here, but I love the Anaheim Ducks tweeting.
Thank you for future considerations.
Yeah, thank you, future considerations. I thought that was classy, man. I like that stuff. I like when they clown a little bit there. So, yeah, Ken, I don't believe he does have a history of 89,000 forfeited for Zegras. Yeah, Brian, thank you for that number. $89,843.76. That's a pretty big fine for a guy who doesn't have a prior history. I probably would have been okay with a game or 2. I think people get more outraged when the refs miss the call. And they just missed it. Oh, well, it happens. So
I think the tweet of the day with the Zegras Husso thing, I think the tweet of the day I saw, it was read, seems like an appropriate punishment for the Zegras hit. I consider the matter now closed. I guess for Anaheim, taking Ville Husso for future consideration. I think it was kind of
yeah.
Winnipeg just won overtime, by the way.
Detroit's like, thank you for getting that money off our books.
So if you took the Sharks at +1.5, you won money. But and they got it to overtime. I will tell you, I'm so impressed with Celebrini and his wall play and just his general hockey sense. He played a really good game. They're a one-line hockey team. They're going to finish with the worst record in the NHL again this year. They're going to probably be a bad team, but Will Smith and Celebrini, if you're a Sharks fan, and Thursday, we're going to have Twisted Wrister, a Sharks aficionado. He's a big fan. He's just going to come on and talk a little bit about where he sees the Sharks. So we'll have Twisted Wrister on Thursday for a brief period of time, half hour or so. Was there anything before we get to the OV talk? Was there anything else you guys wanted to talk about?
Not much. Brian in the chat there mentioned the $89,000. I think that Zegras has to give up. Is that what he means? 89,843.
Yeah, the 3-game suspension will be how much money he loses. That's a pretty large amount.
Not bad, but the first thing I thought of was how much money Ryan Hartman lost. I think Hartman lost over $400,000 in his suspension, did he not? And then Bettman brought it down to, I think, 8 games from 10.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Hartman lost almost $500,000 in that.
Yeah, I thought Hartman's. I think the big thing here's the problem. What they need to figure out is a financial cap but still suspend the player with pay. Like, I was okay with Hartman getting 10 games for his thing, but I thought the monetary penalty for Hartman was ridiculous. Because if that's a guy who makes the league minimum, he's not paying that much money. He's paying a much significant. Now, I'm saying guys who make more money should know better, but like, it's kind of a thing where I feel like they should probably look at that and say, yeah. Brian says Levshunov got suspended for a game too. I didn't see that, Brian. Thank you for letting us know. I missed the Levshunov. I didn't even know he was playing up in the NHL. As Levshunov, I did not see that. I missed the Blackhawks games this weekend. That was one of the games I didn't get to kind of catch. I was just kind of following the score. So,
yeah, so there's a point either way when you say that, Beard. Like a guy making a league min, losing money, maybe it hurts his pocketbook because of his salary and his longevity.
Oh, his AHL.
I mean, there's two ways to slice it there, I guess. But, I mean, either way, it's a good chunk of money when you consider games to
so what Brian's saying is it was for the AHL. That's why we didn't catch it. So for the AHL, it's going to be a significantly less amount because they make less money in the AHL. Anyway, Rico, apologize there. Didn't mean to cut you off there.
You're good, buddy.
So, yeah, Frank Saravelli said about the Husso trade, everybody's like, oh, immediately they're going to trade Gibson. Nope. He says they have some problems in the AHL, and Husso hasn't played in the NHL most this year. He started, I think they started with him, but they put him on waivers earlier in the year, I believe. So he's been playing down in Grand Rapids. So I think it was just something like they're not going to play. They're building Kosa. Like I believe Kosa's getting the bulk of the starts for Grand Rapids for the Detroit Red Wings. So that was the big thing there from Saravelli. And he just said, like, to his knowledge, that doesn't pay. I think the problem with John Gibson is he makes too much money. And if you're the Edmonton Oilers, you need a goalie maybe, or you think you do. I don't know, maybe just play team defense, because from what I saw from Edmonton, I didn't think their goalies were all that terrible. You know, there were maybe one or two goals you could say, oh, maybe we have this back. But if you're an Oilers fan, I mean, you guys know, like, guys, the Oilers are going to be able to add one player, and they don't have much to trade. They have a very thin prospect pool, very thin. Bo Akey, like the kid that in college, Mike, that you're always bringing up. I
love him, but
who is it?
No, I think you pronounce his name Akey. It's one of those last names I'm not going to get to pronounce, but
yeah,
I don't know if you can get much for him. Like, he's great. He's and they've got Capone too. He's pretty good, but you'd have to staple gun them together. And what are you going to get for a sixth rounder that absolutely smashed? And Capone and Akes was, I think, a second rounder. Like, you're not going to get the whole.
I think Akey was a first, wasn't he? I think
he may have been a first. I know Capone, they reached, and they absolutely crushed it on the reach. They got him a year before everyone else wanted to. I think
they got Savoy there too, but that's about it.
I mean, teams are in prospect pool, like all of them.
Yeah, Savoy played in
win-now modes in a salary cap era. I mean, you got to go for it. The Leafs are in the same boat as the Oilers are now. It's cup or nothing.
You could say this, though, Rico. The Leafs have some picks and they have some prospects, because Minton and Cowan, and there's some. Now, if you're the Leafs, I think you're moving those guys to get better.
Exactly. Going back to what Mike's saying, like, your prospect pool's not that deep, so you got to put a Minton and a Cowan to land a big fish somewhere. You don't have that one prospect that's going to land you a top six somewhere unless somebody believes in Minton or Cowan. And you're taking on a team that's trading picks for. It's like Carolina with the Rantanen thing. I know we're probably not going to bring it up tonight, but who's going to trade for Rantanen? They're going to lose if they end up trading him to somebody else. No contenders giving up.
I'll tell you this:
a roster player anymore.
So this is why I didn't want to get into it, because I believe there's some news. Thank you, Brian. I'm not really that concerned about it. You guys playing in the AHL, we're really not a show that's going to focus too much on AHL stuff unless somebody commits murder or something. It's kind of
Brian's the AHL officiate on our chat.
Yeah, you can be our little correspondent, but I'm not that concerned. Like, it is what it is. This is what I'll say. I would be, if I'm a team that's on the fence, that's barely making the Red Wings have to add. They need to make the playoffs. Edmonton is still I don't know how anybody has watched Edmonton the last 3 games they've played and think they're a cup favorite. I get it. They got McDavid and they got Draisaitl. I don't think McDavid, by his standards, has actually had all that good of a season. I actually didn't think he did much in the Four Nations. He didn't really do anything in that game until that play. So it's obviously he scored when it mattered. That's all that you need.
He said it himself. He said he had a bad game. He said it himself.
Yeah. Like, I'm not trying to be critical of him. I'm just saying this is the reality. And Edmonton got in with a lot of luck. They got in. They beat a couple of teams. Like, they got past Vancouver, who was decimated in that second round. No Besser, no Demko. And now, like, if they had Lankinen this year, Lankinen's played real well. By the way, we didn't even talk about them signing Lankinen to a $4.5 million 5-year extension, which everybody's like, yeah, it's a good deal. And if they end up keeping Demko and he stays healthy, you know, he's going to be a UFA after next year. I doubt he gets what he got in the last. He probably makes the same. And maybe I think teams are going to go to this 2 goalie system going forward. I think if you have 2 solid goalies, you're going to go with this because it's working for the Leafs. It's working for the Caps. It's working for it's totally helped Colorado, even though they've lost the last couple of, they haven't looked great either. So yes, I agree, Salvatore. That was a great pass. I thought Marner, by the way, Marner and Matthews both had really good Four Nations. I know Matthews didn't pot a goal. I don't think he's 100%. He had a chance to score the game winner and missed it by inches. So, you know, I think if you're a Leafs fan, you shouldn't be. I thought Willie was probably the most underwhelming of all those 3, and he's looked great since the Leafs have been back. So, and we'll talk about those games tomorrow because we have 12 to preview. So I want to get back to, and I should have highlighted your comment, but Ken had a question, and this is going to break into the Ovechkin stuff because I want to talk a little bit about Ovechkin. I didn't want to highlight a specific game tonight because it was so small, but Ken had a question and we'll get to it here if I can find it. Sorry, Ken. Okay, he says, so my question is, will Ovi hit 1,000 before he ends his NHL career? I've heard he wants to, Ken. I don't know about what these guys think, but I've heard that that's kind of a personal goal for him.
So the guy's a machine. He's been proving everybody wrong his whole career with his longevity. He busted up his leg, missed 16 games. This break is just perfect timing for him too to finish off the year strong. And you know, a lot of people this year thought Ovechkin would be breaking a record on the last place Caps team, but for them to do it on a team that's 14 points ahead of anybody else in Eastern Conference, or 12 or 14 points, I think right now, unbelievable. Yeah, you know what? Break Gretzky's record and keep her going, man. The guy loves the game. He's keeping himself in shape. More importantly, he wants his son to see him play too, even longer than. So that's a huge deal, I think, for him.
Yeah, both his sons, Ilya and Sergey, for sure. His oldest one is like 7 now, so I think it means a lot to him. And you know what? I keep hearing a lot of people doubting the Caps, and I kind of like it because nobody had counted us in 2018 to win it, and I feel like. And I say we because everybody knows I'm a Washington supporter. I don't really care. It doesn't bring bread to my table. But I think people are sleeping on this team. And I think if they can add a third line center, it's going to be real, real interesting. So anyway, the big thing about Ovechkin that I thought was amazing was he's now scored 200 goals in 3 separate decades. So in the 2000s, the 2010s, and the 2020s, he scored over 200 goals in 3 different decades. He scored 436 in the second decade, the 2010s, but just incredible. No one's ever done that in the NHL history. He's going to have 30 goals again. I think he's going to be up there for most 30-goal seasons. Pretty incredible. Gordie Howe has the record for the 42 at 39. If he passes that, which he needs to hit to beat Gretzky's record. So Brian, Nick Backstrom's never playing again. Yeah, he's never playing again. Him and TJ Oshie will never lace the skates up for them again. Those guys had career-ending injuries, man. Like, that's why that hip resurfacing, like what Kane is doing, even though he's a shell of what he was, the fact that he's still a semi-effective player is kind of impressive. I heard Tyler Yaremchuk today say on Oilers Nation that he's ready for the Klingberg experience to be over. And it doesn't feel like he's even been there that long, and he's coming off that double hip resurfacing too. It just feels like that's one of those surgeries where it's probably quality of life for those guys. They'll probably walk and be fit and be able to do stuff. But as far as being an elite level hockey player, it may just be over for them. So anyway, I didn't want to spend a ton of time talking about Ovi. We're already a half hour in the show, and we got to talk about 12 games tomorrow. What were your thoughts on Ovi getting a hat trick against Edmonton? I thought he could have had 3 or 4 goals against the Red Wing or Pittsburgh. They had a 5-on-3. He hit the post. He didn't look terrible, but it's just, sometimes the puck doesn't go in. So I don't know. Did you guys get to watch him play at all this weekend? I know, Rico, you're probably fresh off the trip to Mexico. So I'm glad you got that break. I think you're the only one that took a real vacation. I actually didn't leave either. My wife's work trip ended up canceling and stuff. So I kind of did a staycation in place, just kind of hung out and went ice skating and, did some fun stuff.
Yeah, I played pickleball every morning and let some 80-year-olds just beat the snot out of me, and I just took it like a champ.
They're good at it because they play it a lot.
Yeah. So am I, but it's a good time, man. Playing pickleball in the morning under the palm trees, this is the best. I'm a tennis player, so they changed all the tennis courts into pickleball courts now, no matter where you go. It's like a cult.
It's pretty popular. Yeah, I grew up playing tennis in high school too, Rico. I'm kind of with you. Salvatore, he's going to break the record well before they play I believe he breaks the record before March. Last year, he had 8 goals at the All-Star break, and he finished with 30. So he scored 25 in the second half of this, basically. He's going to be fine. If he didn't break his leg, he'd be like 5 goals behind Draisaitl, who's at 42. He would be second place in goals. And he already he was already on a 60 goal pace this year. He's really played well. So he's going to break it well before that time. So,
what's going on in Washington? Coaching, leadership, and consistency. That's what's going on in Washington. I went through their games this year. They're probably the only team in the NHL that never really got the wheels beat off of them all year. That's coaching. That's leadership. Go back to a Washington game where you've seen them get pummeled, even when they're down early in some games. Even the one in Ottawa this year, they come back. You go through Washington's games all year. They're probably the team that never got pounded one night in, one night out. A lot of teams, it happens. It's hockey. But they seem to be that team this year that just doesn't let it happen. So,
Ovechkin said as well that the thing I think people are missing about Ovi, that he's going to get the scoring. He's going to win that scoring over Gretzky. But when I see him on the ice, I see a guy who just wants to freaking win. Exactly. He's not just trying to. He's putting a team on his back and he's rolling with them, man. The way he's talking out there and the energy and the commitment and the look on his face every time he goes on the ice. Yeah, he wants to score goals, but the reason why he wants to score goals is to win, and that energy just runs through that whole team. And then you got a great coach like Carberry. Like I said, he should have won last. I thought he could have won last year. I hope he wins this year. And just a great team they put together. Underrated defense, the whole team. Like you were saying, it doesn't put any bread on your table. It does on mine. I took Washington to win the cup just before the break at a really good price. And I'm not saying they're going to win, but if you're not thinking that these guys have a chance, you got rocks in your head, man. That team.
This is what I would say. The only team I think that's been consistently better than Washington is Winnipeg. And I'm sorry, I just haven't seen Winnipeg do it in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah.
Boy, would that be a great final. Winnipeg and Washington would love it. The 2 W's.
I'd love to see Winnipeg make it. So I know
the Caps lost to them by a goal. I feel like they could play with that team. And if they get a Scott Lawton to round out that third line, I really feel like, and we'll get into trade stuff. There's so much trade stuff that's going to be coming out. Obviously, we're March 7th. We're not far from the trade deadline. And Frank Saravelli said it best on his daily, on his rundown podcast. This has been a great season. I feel like we're going from the 4 nations and all that, and that created so much awesome buzz. And I'm going to tell you guys, normal shows that don't, like Dan Patrick. I've listened to Dan Patrick for 30 years. He never talks hockey. He had Steve Levy on today. Rich Eisen has had the commissioner on and other people on talking about hockey on his channel. McAfee, which is a pretty popular show, he talks hockey, but he's a Penguins fan, so they've been abysmal. And then he happened to be on break, like a vacation, when the Four Nations happened. So we didn't get a lot from him. But I know Boston Connor was at the Boston game, was in the front row. I know he was there because he was tweeting. So that was great. We're going to go from that to the trade deadline to Ovi breaking the record all this year. It's going to be awesome. I could see Sod. I could see Toronto make the final. Sure, they could make the final. I could see Tampa make the final. Florida, I think Florida isn't going to do it this year. I know everybody's like, oh, they're the champs, blah, blah, blah. It's too much. I think they've just lost too much from those teams that made the consecutive runs, and I think it's going to be hard for them. Now, we didn't talk about Matthew Tkachuk, Brady Tkachuk. From what I heard, Matthew, it's a soft tissue injury. 6 weeks might be the long term for that. He'll be back before the playoffs, they're saying. And Brady, it's like 10 days, 7 to 10 days. So Brady will be back in the lineup, which is good for Ottawa because we want to see those teams compete. I said, and I tweeted out, I want to see Toronto, Ottawa first round. That would be an awesome matchup. Battle for Ontario. I want to see the Edmonton Oilers versus the Colorado Avalanche. And right now, guys, that could be the case. If Edmonton gets back on their winning ways, if they end up winning the Pacific and Colorado stays in the second wild card, the first wild card, they will play the winner of the Pacific. So the Vancouver Canucks, if they stay in the final spot, you'll see them play the Winnipeg Jets. That's going to be a great matchup too. I always feel too, when you get the Canadian teams matching up, those are great, great matchups always in the playoffs, right? They're always like, there's so much victory because everybody in Canada is paying attention to and all their fan bases are pretty rabid, so it's going to be awesome. I'm really excited. I would love to see Columbus make it. I still think they have a shot. I think the Rangers and the Bruins are not going to make it. The Bruins are minus 26. They're not scoring goals. They're one of the lowest scoring teams. I think they're 24th in the league, 159 goals scored through 58 games. They've played almost more games than any team already. Another team I'm a little bit sussy on is the New Jersey Devils. And I'm sorry, Singsy. I thought Jack Hughes was disappointing in the Four Nations. I didn't think his defensive play was all that bad, but he really didn't do anything offensively, and that's what we need from a player like him. So I was a little bit disappointed. He kind of disappeared. He made some plays. I don't know if the moment just got a little bit too big for him, but I thought Jesper Bratt played unbelievable. So I don't think size should factor in. It's just one of those things. All right. We're 38 minutes into our first show back. I knew it was going to be a little bit of a longer one. Let's get into tomorrow's games, talk a little gambling. 12 games on the docket tomorrow. Speaking of the team that Sod asked me about, the Maple Leafs play the Bruins. This is one I feel like the Maple Leafs could stomp on the Bruins' neck and really eliminate their chances. This is a division game. If you win this in regulation, this is going to put Boston behind the 8-ball, who's already played 59 games. So they have less games to play to make up that differential. What are you thinking here? Boston is actually the betting dog as a home dog, plus 120, which that would scare me a little bit just because the Leafs and Bruins, but the Bruins just can't score. And I feel like the Leafs have a good team. I haven't seen them make a lot of the Leafy type mistakes. Where are you guys at on that one? I don't have the over-unders, guys. Bleacher Report has changed their app and it's brutal.
I'm showing the over-under at 5.5.
Okay.
I don't know how you don't find a way to do a parlay here with Toronto and the over, simply because Boston has I don't know what roster we're going to throw up tomorrow. I don't And Rico, correct me if I'm wrong. I think Maple Leafs pretty much have 100% of the normal roster here. So I think you guys are for him. Yeah. I don't think that's out of the question.
Yeah. Yeah, Pacioretty's day-to-day. Yankrok's been out for a while, but with no Hampus, Lindholm, and McAvoy on that blue line, Boston, I'll take Toronto team total. I'll probably go with the over game total as well if we get in a 5.5, a decent price here. And, yeah, this could be Toronto just taking over and just going into Boston with momentum here. I mean, Boston's lost 3 in a row. This is a dagger here if they lose this at home, especially coming out of the break. I don't know, the recency bias. I mean, history bias. It's just a Boston spot, but I mean, it's a different year, man. It's a different team. I mean, Boston's having a hard time scoring.
Yeah. Pearlo, where are you at on that?
I'm the same. I've got Boston right now as the type of team that if a team is driven to beat them, they're going to beat them. They might beat a couple teams that are looking ahead to a different spot or something like that. But a team like Toronto, who always likes to beat up on Boston if they can, it's a rivalry. And
in Boston, no less.
In Boston, they want to put their stamp on them, like you said. And I think Toronto's going to win this pretty handily. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Next game, Ducks Sabres. The Sabres are just going to win like 70% of their games now that they're like last in the East. This is what they do. They just perform in March and April and barely miss the playoffs by like 3 or 4 points. And if they could just, avoid the 14-game losing streak, they would be a playoff team because they have enough talent. What are you guys' thoughts on this game? Ducks are a road dog. I actually have the Ducks are above 500, 24 and 25. Like, people are making fun of them, but they're actually a solid team.
Yeah, their home and away splits are pretty much even. Like, Anaheim's just as good on the road as they are at home. They're basically almost 500 at home and the road. Buffalo's a little better home team. They're a lot worse on the road. They're kind of like Boston. They're identical almost when it comes to home road splits. So, this is Buffalo or nothing here for me, I think. But, I mean, you got no Zegras, but look at Alex Tucky's day-to-day too, so that might be something to monitor as well in Buffalo. But it almost feels like a bit of a draw game. West Coast team, East Coast team, low event.
Yeah, the over-under is 6.5. Where do you feel in Pearlo?
I got a over-under at 6 here. I already bet it early. I like the over quite a bit here. Usually when these young teams from different conferences go up against each other, they like to get their legs moving. They like to pad the stats. And Buffalo and Anaheim, like you said, are both playing really well right now. So I think that this is going to be an actually pretty entertaining game. And I'm with Rico. I like the draw. But I would probably take Anaheim just simply because I can't take Buffalo at minus 190 ever. So Buffalo will keep on winning until they have to. That's what they do every year. Like,
I think if they
have to, or they get a little close to a playoff spot, then they crumble all the crap. So
I just feel like they could probably win 75% of their games, Pearlo, and probably not make it.
As long as they're still well out of the playoffs, I agree with you. But as soon as they get like 3 or 4 get behind or something, then they'll just crap the bed all over.
I would love to see them like backdoor in. It would be crazy. It would be a comeback for ages, be a blast in the East. Basically, this late in the season, it would be even more shades of what the St. Louis Blues did in 2019. That's why that's such an anomaly. We'll never see anything like that again, I don't think. Unless the talent just gets so thinned out and just everybody's so, it is what it is. So Hurricanes. Oh, Mike, did you want to touch this game?
Actually, I was going on the Sabres 1.5. I think the Ducks are going to be tired back-to-back overtime games. And Sabres have kind of an easier game. Got to take the third period off. They've had some extra rest. They're at home. So I'm going with 1.5 there for them.
I thought they were going to choke that game away at one point against the Rangers because they have had some big lead games against like Colorado and stuff. Boy, I'll tell you what, too, Colorado, like, they are probably one of the more disappointing teams for me this year, just based on what they've been able to do. I'm very interested in what they're going to be able to do at the trade deadline. Obviously, I think as the time goes, they're not going to see Landeskog back. Let's get to this game. The Carolina Hurricanes at the Montreal Canadiens. I could see the Montreal Canadiens make a little bit of run. Carolina did not look great for 2.5 periods against Toronto. Canadians are a plus 170. I think if you're betting this game, it almost feels like the Canadians might be the play here. I still don't know and Rantanen hasn't been dominant. Mike, what do you think on this one? Start you off on this one. The over-under is 6.5.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at like injury reports right now and see who's in. I think I'm taking the home dog here. I don't know. I hate betting against Kochetkov. I hope I pronounced that right. And he's projected to be in for Carolina. I love betting on him. So if he's in, maybe I don't touch it. But if how it sits with Montembeault in, I'm probably going to go with the dog here.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Rico, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'll take the dog, and I kind of think the under in this spot.
Yeah, 6.5 feels like a lot for a team that's defensively as good as Carolina, but they did give up 6 to the Leafs the other day. So I wonder. And right off a long break, and now I know they had some players that played in the Four Nations too. They had Slavin, Aho, Jarvis. Am I missing somebody from them? Did they have anybody else? Rantanen. So yeah. Yeah, I'm not as surprised, Ken, that Rantanen has been a little struggled. I feel like a player of his caliber, that's kind of a tough move. I think he probably did not anticipate. Looks like Vegas just took a delay a game penalty. So the Kings are going to go on the power play here. For those of you watching along as we are live at what would be 10:45 Eastern time, roughly, the LA Kings and Vegas Golden Knights are in the first period scoreless. And LA has played Vegas really, really tough. Really tough. So I think a lot of people are handing Edmonton a first round win, but if they don't get to match up against LA, I wonder what happens. There's some interesting matchups. Yeah, I don't know what the Leafs have to do with the Hurricanes Canadians game, Ken. I'm sorry. Yep. Did everybody give their play on this game? Leafs Hurricanes Canadians?
I haven't touched it yet, but I'm actually leaning to a draw. I think that this could be a tighter game than people think. I don't have a play on the side because I can't trust Carolina at this price. And I'm not super strong on Montreal either, so I think there's going to be something like that. That's what I would do.
Okay, Penguins Flyers. What I saw from the Penguins this weekend, I liked their game on Sunday. I thought they were not terrible against Washington through about a period and a half. I just think the Flyers are clicking, and I like the Peltier Kuzmenko ad. Both those guys have already kind of contributed to that lineup. I think Farabee and Frost weren't doing anything for them, so I like those pickups for the Flames too. They're young. I think sometimes just getting guys different, change of venue sometimes helps. So, where are you guys on this game? The over/under is 5.5. The big thing with both these teams is goaltending has not been a real nice staple, but I wonder with Ersson having such a good Four Nations, potentially do you give the edge to the Flyers here? Because Pittsburgh is a team. Why don't they go get John Gibson? He's from there. Like, you're trying to win, sort of. Like, you're not completely out of it. Like, that's a guy, if you're going to make a trade for anybody, that would be there's the one team I feel like that needs to add a goalie. You could argue Pittsburgh if they're trying to who cares if you give up? What are you going to give up? First round pick. It's not going to help you for 5 years. But then Crosby, Malkin, Letang, those guys are all retired. Like, at this point, what are you doing? Like, you don't have it in the Tendy. You're going to end up having to buy out Tristan Jarry probably. I'm going to guess in the offseason they're going to buy him out. So anyway, it's just a thought. How do you guys feel about Flyers? If you don't want to talk about the game, we can just skip it. I want to keep it flowing.
Yeah, Flyers are nothing for me. No matchup better at home against Pittsburgh here, I think.
Anytime you get Sidney Crosby at plus money, I could say that's not terrible, but yeah.
I think if Pittsburgh going to try, they've been trying, but they're really struggling goaltending and defense-wise. And
they just don't have any depth or size or anything.
They could have beat the Rangers. Like, it's not that they weren't trying. There was a ton of effort here. So I don't think it's going to be a a blowout by any stretch. I think it's going to be pretty tight, but Philadelphia will probably pull it out. They got their new players that are feeling good about themselves and stuff like that, where in Pittsburgh, I think it's the exact opposite. They're like looking at themselves going, okay, we're not making it. And so I'll give the energy to Philadelphia here. And I don't like the price, but they're probably going to win it. I'll take Philly.
Yeah. Mike, you in on this one?
Not touching this game. These are two teams I like betting against.
Yep. I got you. Rico? You
are Philly or nothing.
Yep. You said Philly or nothing. Okay, next game. My Washington Capitals host the Calgary Flames. Calgary at plus 170. I don't hate it. Calgary's in the mix. They're in the mix. So
third game in 4 nights, Calgary, tough little spot.
Washington too, though. They played Saturday, Sunday, and then Tuesday. So it's kind of a and this totally seems like a game Washington would lose at home too. So plus 170. I'll take the
Mangiapane goal prop against his former team at home.
Yes. Former Flames players always score against the Flames. So anytime goal Kuzmenko is money. Well, they're not playing the Flames. The Capitals are. So I will say Mangiapane. I love that from Rico. I like the Flames too. Plus 170. Pearlo, Rico, or Pearlo, Mike.
Draw.
Okay, draw. And it's 5.5. It's 5.5. I actually like the over.
It's 5.5.
I like the over.
It's going to be Thompson in net, probably. I'm not going against Thompson in any game. I'm sorry.
He gave up 3 against. I think he gave up 3 against Pittsburgh, or he still gave up 3 against Pittsburgh on Saturday, though.
Yeah. So, how often is that going to happen? That doesn't mean anything to me. Calgary doesn't have much for, especially on the road. Washington's got the matchup. I know there's lots of reasons you could take Calgary here, but Washington just wins. They just do. So I can't go against them here. I can't. I don't know if I'll bet it because it's minus 200, and Calgary likes to keep things close, but I'd take Washington if anything here.
Okay. Everybody give their bet. Mike, you don't have to play it. Yes, no? You on this one?
No, I'm going to probably minus 200. I'll probably parlay them with Montreal plus 1.5.
Okay.
So I'll get 2 big minuses. I'll probably come up positive.
And remember, guys, Mike and Pearlo are religious about tweeting out their stuff. I will do a video during the day to do like a bet of the day from everybody. Usually just Rico and Pearlo give me their small. Rico give me a goal scoring prop, this, that, or the other. So Ken says it'll be a stinker if Vladar's in net. So, okay. Well, yeah, we'll see. Again, I just like, I'm taking the Plains at plus 170. I rarely take anything. That's just a funny bet for me. Stars at Blue Jackets. By the way, Blue Jackets getting Gabranson back. They got Boone Jenner back. They're starting to get healthy. That's really good news. Again, we talked about the crowd chanting Goudreau, and then they showed Johnny Goudreau's son, baby, just turned 1. And also, I believe February 4th, we're going to find out what happened to that bag of dirt that killed those 2 guys. So we're going to find that out. Or March 4th, I think, is arraignment. So we'll see. So where are you guys at, Stars, Blue Jackets? I don't know what to make of the Stars. I feel like they kind of been – it feels like their window is kind of slowly – they've got to make a move on defense. I think, that, the Bichelle thing, the hit Cizikas laid on Bichelle. Cizikas is 5'0". Hey, Pam, how are you doing? Hope you're doing great, too. Thanks for joining us. The Cizikas hit, it's, I didn't think it was a penalty. And I think he got booted out of the game. I don't know, because Cizikas is what, 5 something, and Bichelle's like 6'5".
Man strength against boy strength. There's a difference on the ice.
I know, but
it wasn't dirty. It wasn't dirty at all.
I don't think it was dirty at all. He obviously he didn't get fined or suspended or anything. They booted him out of the game. But anyway, so Mark Stone just took a penalty for the Vegas Golden Knights. So they are going back on the power play, still 0-0, 11-12 in the first. He slashed, kind of a soft call. Oh no, right there. That's whatever, I guess. It's amazing what they constitute a slash these days. The slash used to be the stick breaking, like that was the slash.
That was a slash. Yeah. Oh, it was on the hands. That's why, yeah.
You remember when they actually taught you to hook the guy's hands when you're on defense?
Yeah.
Like I was taught to do that.
Yeah. So where are you at here, Rico? Stars, Blue Jackets. What do you like?
You're getting a 6.5. I don't mind the under in this spot.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. Okay.
I like the Blue Jackets a lot here. Dallas is going to play LA after this.
Plus 145.
They've had a good road trip. It's 3 games in 4 nights. Columbus has got a bunch of guys back right now. They're going bullish to make the playoffs. I think they will make the playoffs, honestly. And I think they're going to take it out. I like the Blue Jackets here.
Well, and the one thing too is remember the Blue Jackets are 18-6-4 at home. Yeah, very good home record.
They got a
Dallas 17-11 on the road. Dallas is much better at home too, and not as good. Yeah, Ken, I like what Ken said. He said Dallas looked good the other night. I just I don't hate it, man. The Blue Jackets, they're a good team. Dean Evison's got those guys playing. That's a good squad. Mike, did you give your pick on this one? You said Blue Jackets too?
Yeah, I'm going CBJ. I didn't think Dallas deserved to beat the Islanders, and I think that's going to catch up to them. I think CBJ handles it.
Yeah, the Islanders actually were playing some really good hockey before the break, too. They had a really nice run of like 9 in a row before they lost one. Oilers at Lightning. This is a pick 'em. The Lightning are slight favorites. Or what? Minus 112 is the Lightning. Minus 108 is the Oilers. Tell me, guys, did I get that wrong? The Lightning are the favorites, right?
I have them equal odds, but
okay.
I'm taking the homeboys. Like I don't know, Vazzy.
Edmonton looks terrible. And you know who doesn't look terrible? The Lightning. They're a good team. If they could win the Atlantic, they're like 4 points from the division lead. Just when you think they're not good again, they're good.
I like Tampa too. Toronto better win that division because they play Tampa in the first round. It could be a good night in the first round. You never know, man. Tampa just feels like they got one more run in them.
Yep, I agree. I think they could be in the conference finals easy out of that Atlantic side for certain. I totally agree. I think they might be the class of that. And we're talking about Toronto's look great, and I said they could be there, and obviously the defending Cup champs in Florida could be there too. So, by the way, the Kings just scored on the power play.
Perfect.
Boom, boom, boom. 1-0 Kings. Yep. Yeah. You had Kings money line and Kings first
period too. Yeah.
By the way, Kings 9 shots to the Vegas Golden Knights 1. I knew this was. I didn't want to bet against you on this, Pearlo. The LA had the huge thing. By the way, I'm wearing the LA Fire concert shirt and the Fire Aid concert hat. The money went to charity. That was such an emotional day. They had all the first responders. Some of the stories they told were awesome. If you guys get a chance, that was aired on everything. It was on ESPN2, ESPN Plus, True TV. Everybody had it. It was really cool. So really awesome. Yeah, I like the Lightning. Everybody's on the Lightning here against the Oilers.
Yeah, I'm also right now. Get on it right now. There's a 6 at FanDuel I want the over 6 for sure too. But yeah, probably the Lightning are going to win. Edmonton
6.5 is what I'm getting from.
I know it's just there's all different books, and FanDuel right now has a 6. Get in on it right now.
Yeah. So when I give you the Bleacher Report for you guys, that is coming from DraftKings, which I believe is owned by FanDuel. So funny that they have separate books. Ken likes the Lightning 2 in the chat. Love it, Ken. Love your photo too, Ken. That photo is awesome. I don't know if that's you or your son or whatever. It's a great picture. Thank you for having it on there. The Battle of New York. Rangers, Islanders. I'm taking the Islanders.
All day. Just tell you that right now, all day.
Islanders. Yeah. Oh, it's Iginla. I wasn't sure if it was Iginla. I didn't want to make it's assumption. I was like, it kind of looks like Iginla, but okay. It's a cool picture, Ken. I wasn't sure. I didn't want to assume, man. Iginla looks like other people. People look like Iginla. The great. I love that you're a Calgary Flames fan. By the way, I got a new jersey while you guys are gone. I got a Matthew Tkachuk Calgary Flames jersey. So that's a new one to the collection. So we'll have to show that one off. Everybody on the Islanders here. There's no favorite in this game either, really. It's the same line. I'm getting the same line for Rangers Islanders as we were Oilers. The over-under is 5.5. I actually wouldn't I wouldn't like the Rangers suck. They suck right now. They're not good. They didn't deserve to win against Pittsburgh. If Igor Shesterkin was in net for Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh would have won that game 7-1. And it was, but they won 5-3 the other way. That was a total goaltender mismatch, is what it came down to. So you guys are all on the Islanders. We still have 4 games, so I want to get through this because we're an hour in. Everybody good? Ready to move on?
Yep.
Kraken Blues. I knew the first day back, everybody like, oh, it's so much. We talked about everything, so I didn't want to go too long. Kraken Blues. I think the Kraken are play spoiler. They've, Shane Wright scored a ton of goals. I think he leads the team in points since December 15th or something. Pretty awesome. Plus 114. I like the Kraken here. Over under is 5.5. Where are you guys at?
I'm dodging this like the plague. I don't like.
Yep. Yeah, I love it. Mike, those are the best kind of bets.
Give me the draw at best, and I'm like with DGen. The Blues have been my kryptonite this year. Screw them. I don't want anything to do with them. So,
yeah, and you know that Bennington's going to be absolute dog crap now that he's back with that St. Louis.
For sure. Yeah.
So, Rico, where are you? Are you taking this one, or are you like,
yeah,
I wish I was still in
here.
Rico's like, I wished I was still in Mexico. This is bullshit.
Man, it's killing me, man. The snowbanks are higher than my vehicle here now.
You guys got a ton of snow? Let me tell you something.
You know what? It was actually perfect timing because it was +4 today, and the water's dripping, so it's like I went at the perfect time. So.
Yeah. So I will tell you, we have 0 snow here, and it's been in the 30s. So I expect it to be gone. My wife and I are talking about getting our tires off in February. Yes, LA strong. Johnny Gaudreau forever. Love it. I'm wearing the LA stuff for sure. So, and I hope LA goes on a little bit of run. I think they got a lot to play for. I think they're going to surprise some teams in the playoffs. I wouldn't want to play them in the first round for sure. Okay. So Panthers, Preds. How you feeling, boys? I don't know how you touch the Predators, although they just beat Colorado. So that shows you where Colorado's at.
Panthers just lost a bad one too, didn't they? They lost against Anaheim or something like that.
Seattle, I think.
Seattle, yeah, that's what it was. It was Seattle. Yeah, I think they ruined the Preds here. I'll take the Panthers in a big way here.
Same.
Well, remember the Panthers, they lost 2-1. Not a terrible dominating loss. The Panthers are shorthanded here. No Kachuk.
Yeah,
no, man.
Still, I think they win pretty handily.
Okay.
Mike's still drinking a Nashville Kool-Aid, aren't you, Mike?
I may or may not have cashed out most of those bets. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, but you know what's going to be funny is they're going to be good now because they didn't have anybody. They own like Yossi. All their good players got rest except for Saros, and he didn't even play that much for Sweden because he was terrible, and they had to go to Kevin Lankinen. Finland, right? So Saros is Finnish, right? I think I messed that up.
You got the goalies right.
Saros was Swedish.
Yeah. So sorry, I got that wrong. But like, I have to say, man, I think watch the Panthers go like 750 the rest of the way. They still don't make the playoffs because they're way down there. Red Wings Wild is a huge game. It's a huge game for the Detroit Red Wings. It's not as big for the Wild. I keep thinking if the Wild have Kaprizov, they are so good this year. It's ridiculous. But they have been decimated by injuries. And talk about great jobs. They're in that Central. They're tied with Dallas. I mean, they're not tied with Dallas, but they're securely in that third spot. They would have to fall apart. Colorado's 4 points behind them right now. And they've lost 2 in a row, while the Wild have won 3 in a row. That's all it takes, I guess, is a little three-game losing streak on the other side. But anyway, I don't know, man. I like the Wild. I thought Eriksson Ek was great in the Four Nations. Brock Faber, you talk about coming out party. That guy was dominant for the Team USA. I thought Quentin Byfield, by the way, looks like he took a penalty, so we're going to have Vegas power play. 7 minutes to go in the first. This first period been dragging for this game. How are you guys feeling? Wild Red Wings. Anybody want to touch that game or?
Detroit. This is an instant revenge. That's what I don't like because Minnesota just beat Detroit and Detroit just dropped it in the third. So it's an instant revenge game for Detroit right here. I think Talbot should be in net for this one. I just feel like they're going to get their revenge here. I'm going to take Detroit at the plus money here. Not going to put lots on it, but I like to take those instant revenge spots.
And Minnesota has reverse splits too. Like they're 13-2 at home, but they're 21-7 on the road.
Yeah,
but this is a home game for Minnesota, and they took points from
reverse splits. Like they're killer on the road, but just basically 500 at home.
Which is surprising to me because they draw. I mean, they sell out for preseason games.
Yeah, man. XL Energy Center, like, yeah.
Oh, that was where the Frozen. That's where Mike and I met. That was where the Frozen Four was last year. So, and we're getting ready to go to that. So we'll be off for a little bit of that time. Oh, no show Friday. There won't be a show Friday this week, so can't do it. Blackhawks, Utah Hockey Club, final game of the night. I've actually liked what I've seen from the Blackhawks in like the game replays and stuff. But Utah is fighting for a playoff spot. I feel like they're right there. I mean, they're 4 points out of a spot, but they have a lot of games played already, 58. So the teams in front of them, like Vancouver, have less games. The Kings less games. So they've got we're getting close to everybody already playing 60. I feel like this is a game Utah has to win, and I wouldn't just touch it because the line is so big, minus 250 Utah. But you're starting to see Cooley and Gunther just step up all the time. Like, I think their game on Sunday, didn't they win 2-1? And I think the guys who scored were Logan Cooley and Dylan Gunther. I was 100%. Jake DeBrusk scored his 21st for Vancouver, and then Logan Cooley and Dylan Gunther scored. And by the way, that was Dylan Gunther's 21st goal. So quietly, those guys are just really, really good. So I feel equally happy for Utah, but also devastated for the Arizona Coyotes fans because they finally have a team that's borderline playoff and they're not going to make it because their team was taken away from them. So does anybody want to talk about this game or good? I think everybody's
Utah minus 1.5. They got Cooley back now. Chicago just looks like they just can't get up right now. They
don't have the depth.
Yeah, they just any team that wants to beat Chicago will beat Chicago. Like you might get in there and you're like looking ahead to another game or you're not taking them seriously, but Utah is going to be out to win this one. They still want to make the playoffs if they can. So I think Utah is going to ruin them here.
All right.
I can't touch this one. Part of me wants to take Blackhawks just because of the value, but then I'm thinking to myself, that means I'm betting on Chicago, and that's even after a couple, I don't think I could do that.
Yeah.
And then Chicago's up 2-0. You're feeling good about it. Then next thing you know, it's 5-2 Utah in the third.
Chicago got beat by the Blue Jackets on Saturday.
5-1.
5-1. That reminds me, next Saturday, yes, it's Elimination Chamber WWE, but it's also the Stadium Series between the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Detroit Red Wings. That is a significant game, guys. That's going to be one of the most significant games I can remember for an outdoor game because of where we're at in the season. Once again, one incredible season. That game is Saturday, I think the 1st. So, yes, that game is the 1st. Comes 6 p.m. Eastern, Red Wings Blue Jackets Stadium Series. They say neutral site. It's in Columbus. It's at the Horseshoe. That's not a neutral site. So that's where it's in the same town that Columbus is in. So just to give you a real quick rundown of the standings before we get out of here, and I just want to see what you guys let's see what's going on. There we go. So this is where we're at with the standings. So Toronto has got the lead by 1 point, and they have a game in hand on the Florida Panthers. But Tampa's only played 56 games. They're right there. If they win their 2 games, look at the goal differential, 47 for Tampa. Tampa's big problem is they're not great on away, but they're good at home. So, yes, I like Lana. I like the black jerseys too. I think the Caps are going to go back to a better rotation of the Screaming Eagle jersey for sure. I like those jerseys. That was, those are the kind of the jerseys I grew up being a fan of, them wearing those. So obviously they've had a lot more success in their red jerseys, but I love the black ones for sure. I think they're the nicest jersey in the NHL. So here's Detroit, 64 points. It's going to be real interesting. Right now, the Blue Jackets are 2 points behind. So when we get to that game, that is going to be significant. I love it. Like, that's a significant game. It's not a division game because Columbus is in the Metro, but it's definitely a game for the wild card. So that's going to be an incredible. It's going to be an incredible run. And then in the West too, it's not as close, but the Flames are right there. They got a game in hand on Vancouver. If they win, I don't know. Does anybody trust Vancouver? And Utah's kind of in the mix. You think maybe St. Louis maybe has a play. So any final thoughts before we call it a night, guys? I appreciate you guys. Missed you. Hope you all had a great vacation. We already lost Pearlo, kind of, sort of. So his camera went down. Yeah, your camera went down.
Shout out to the Sweden fans for giving us cue cards to sing along for their anthem for the Four Nations. That was the coolest thing I saw. So shout out to the Sweden guys.
Yeah, cool. Rico missing Mexico. You got 4 feet of snow there, huh?
Yeah, the whole time it was just pounding while I was gone, so I wasn't missing it. But
yeah. Now it sucks that it's still there. I'm actually kind of surprised you guys have that much snow. But I know that February is kind of those things. Pearlo, we'll get you back next time. I appreciate all you guys. Remember, this show is hosted by Puckheads, for Puckheads. We had it consistently 25 people in the chat all night. So I appreciate all you guys being there with us. But on X, we had some people on. We always get one person on Twitch, which I love, and we do really well on X. So I really appreciate it. We thank Kate Kaki for letting him broadcast on our channel, on his channel, on YouTube. We're trying to grow the game. I think it was great tournament, and I'm really excited for the Stanley Cup playoff run. The trade deadline's coming. Don't forget, John will be doing a trade deadline show here, so make sure you tune in there. He follow him on the socials. I want to just commend everybody, Pearlo, Mike especially. You guys were back here. You guys were always tweeting stuff, tagging Hot Take Hockey. You guys are tweeting out your bets. So I appreciate all you guys. Have a great one, everybody. Appreciate you hanging out with us. And we'll see you tomorrow, 10 p.m. Eastern.